We will defend these police officers.
Listen to police officers' commands, listen to what we tell you, and just stop. The nation needs to realize that when we tell you to do something, do it. And if you're wrong, you're wrong. If you're right, then the courts will figure it out.
We don't get to take the law, we enforce it. But at the end of the day, each and every member should go home safe. Sometimes the use of force is necessary. You need to comply with the police officer, the way the system was meant to be. Comply with the orders of police officers. Resisting arrest is a real and dangerous crime.
Nonpartisan Liberty for All. I'm your host, Dave Bourne, and it is February. I was like, damn, because I fucked up on the last show. I said it was like January 1st because I looked at the one. It's February 2nd, 2016, and I'm coming to you live from Las Vegas, Nevada. Thank you for listening to Nonpartisan Liberty for All. We're on weeknights, Tuesday through Thursday at 7 o'clock p.m. Pacific, 10 o'clock Eastern, and I could still hear the music in the background. That's why that was bothering me, throwing me off. 10 o'clock Eastern, and you can listen live on Spreaker.com and nonpartisanlibertyforall.com. And you can listen to the archives on, there's like a whole list now, Spreaker, YouTube, Twitter, SoundCloud, Tumblr, and what was the other one I had just fixed last night that it will now be appearing on as well? I have to go look into that. The best place to watch the archives is YouTube, just because the more views I get on YouTube adds up to some money. So far, I have 1 cent. So I have 1 cent. You can also go to the website, nonpartisanlibertyforall.com, and donate if you would like to donate. I'm not going to beg anybody for donations like some people do or anything like that, and I don't expect anything. If you want to donate, that's great. If not, it's no big deal. But there was another site that I had just fixed that I was having. Oh, Stitcher. I just fixed Stitcher last night. It was pulling the RSS feed from the wrong place, and now it's pulling it from the right place. So you can also listen to the archives on Stitcher. So we have plenty of applications where you can listen to the archives at. Of course, on Spreaker is the only one that has all the archives going back to the very first show. We promote the ideas of true freedom and liberty, meaning being able to do whatever you want as long as you respect the freedom of others and don't directly interfere with their freedom, as well as exposing government for what it is, a mafia based on extortion that rules without consent by threat of force and violence. And we have a few different things to talk about today. Our main topic, of course, is Donald Trump. And we won't spend too much time on his hair. I know that's a played out joke, but I can't get over that shit. And he did a thing on TV like recently, and he's like, no, it's my hair. I guess it's his hair, but it's like an animal, man. I remember Bill Maher had said that they proved that he was, related to baboons, and Donald Trump was going to sue him, seriously, if he didn't apologize. And he said they proved it through DNA, and obviously it was a joke. You can't match human DNA to the DNA of a baboon. It was just so fucking stupid. But that's the kind of pompous ass he is. So I want to give a full disclaimer on this. I am not a fan of Donald Trump. I've never been a fan of Donald Trump. I've always hated him because he's an arrogant egomaniac, and he always has been. He's always been looking for the spotlight and wanting to be a celebrity and talking about how great he is and all he has accomplished. I can't stand that shit. Just sitting there talking about how great you are and I've done this and I've done that and whatever. And I got $1 million from my father to start my first business. So he wasn't somebody who came from nothing. I can say I'm somebody who came from nothing. Of course, I'm not a millionaire neither, unfortunately, but he's not somebody who came from even, middle class. He's somebody whose father was rich and he gave him some money. You know, how many people are like, hey, Dad, can I borrow $1 million? Oh, yeah, sure. What? Set up a business? No problem. Here you go. I'll write you a check. That's not really going to happen for most people. So he had some advantages that other people didn't have. Now, that doesn't mean that he didn't build anything. You don't hear anything about, he has 5 siblings. You don't hear anything about them, but maybe they make a lot of money and they're just people that don't want to be in the limelight and they want to be left alone. He's the one who constantly wants to be out there. There's plenty of billionaires that you don't even know who they are. And a lot of them are actually, I think, running the government. So we'll talk all about Donald Trump. We'll also talk about a couple stories in D.C., crime or not committing crime actually pays. We'll talk about that story, as well as a criticism of, I wouldn't call it a criticism, I call it a total insult. There's a difference between if somebody wants to criticize the show and say, well, you could do this better, or this, it wasn't that good, or you could do this or that. Critique is fine. I don't have any problem with that. Actually, I encourage it, even though I don't get any. But if somebody wants to personally come at me and talk about my show, then that's a problem. And when I say that's a problem, no, I'm not going to go out and do something about it. But I will call them out on it if they want to personally attack me and my show, especially when their show is fucking terrible. And it sounds like I couldn't get through more than fucking 3 minutes of it. I don't know if I could get through that long, but I was like, all right, let me listen and see if what comes up that I can play a small clip of on the show. So we'll talk about that piece of shit. And I think the show's from 3 years ago, but they posted that they're going to bring it back. So how lucky for all the fans, and supposedly they have all these fans. Maybe they do, but I can't see it. Unless they just know so many people, but I'm not going to name the person or anything, but they're like a creepy motherfucker. Like they remind me of like a serial killer with bodies in their basement and shit. They look real creepy. But anyway, we'll get to that later in the show as well, because it's a pretty fucked up story. But before we get to that, and I want to kind of alternate, I have a lot on Trump, but I want to kind of alternate between Trump and some of the other stories. We also have a story on Snowden that before he got to Russia, I thought it was recently when I first read the headline, but I guess it's before he got to Russia that they tried to get him when he left Hong Kong, meaning the U.S. government. And luckily they didn't. So that is definitely a positive thing. But I first want to talk about the Iowa caucus, because Trump, talked about course he's going to win and blah, blah, blah. And I mean, it really doesn't mean much. I think they put too much into it. And again, back to full disclosure, I think that the presidential, along with other elections as well, are rigged. So whoever the powers that be want to win is who's going to win. So, I mean, talking about this really, when it gets down to it, it's pretty irrelevant. I mean, I'm talking about Trump and his history and his arrogance and all of this shit. But as far as him winning, it's like a rigged. It's like wrestling, actually. You know, politics are so much like wrestling in so many ways. I mean, it's who's going to win is already decided. They yell at each other like they hate each other, but they're friends. You know, all of this shit. It's definitely just like professional wrestling. So, but from AP and... Oh, no, that's a different article from AP. This article is not from AP, but it's from the Free Thought Project. And they're saying it's true. I haven't heard it anyplace else. So just in case it is not true, that Trump has been nominated, and this is not The Onion. Trump has been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. And of course, you know, now that I bring this up, my article disappeared. He has not won it, obviously. That would be a much bigger story. But I would think if he was nominated, it would be a much bigger story. And being that it's coming from the Free Thought Project, I don't know how reliable that story is, being that I didn't hear it anyplace else. So it could be true. It doesn't really make any sense because what is the criteria to be nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize anyway? The only person I always think of that I really, and I know there's probably others that I just don't know. It's not something that I usually follow, but the only one that I really relate to peace is Martin Luther King. And of course, he stood for peace. And then you have like Obama bombing people, and then he wins it. I don't know if they knew he was bombing people yet at the time, and Trump comes out and, of course, pretty much treats people like shit. His jokes aren't jokes. He's condescending. He tries to make it out like, oh, I'm just making a joke, but he's really just being an asshole and making fun of you. And my article is now not coming up for whatever reason, but yeah, according to the Free Thought Project, and let me see if I can get that back up. According to the Free Thought Project, Donald Trump is or has been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. And it even says seriously. So it says for his peace through strength ideology. Now, I don't know anything about that. I've never heard of it again. It shows, see, this keeps going out. I don't know why. Maybe they're not so sure about the article, or it's a fake article, or somebody hacked them. But, oh no, it's back up. Because all my other articles are up. This article keeps going up and down. So anyway, according to the Free Thought Project, but I just can't see it as a real article. I think that it's fake. So I'll do some more research on that, and we'll talk about that tomorrow if it happens to be true. If I can find some, or later in the show, doesn't have to be tomorrow. Talk about it later in the show if it happens to be true, because I don't see Donald Trump being nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. although Obama, I don't know how he got the Nobel Peace Prize neither. But again, that was before I think it was so obvious, or all this stuff came out about the drone bombings and stuff like that. So, as I was saying, in Iowa, he had come in second. Ted Cruz ended up coming in first. And it doesn't seem to really matter if you look at the last couple of elections. I did think Obama came in first in Iowa, and he did win. But Mike Huckabee, I believe, came in first, and Rick Santorum came in first, too. And where did they go? Pretty much nowhere. So to say that what happens in Iowa, I realize it's the first state, but it doesn't really mean much. What happens, though, is these campaigns are millions, if not billions of dollars. So they judge it off the first few caucuses. Caucuses. Yeah, he said caucuses. And so that's where, if they do really bad, I remember a couple years ago, not a couple now, I think it was the 2008 election, where Rudy Giuliani was leading all the polls, like, you know, a year or a year and a half before. And every time he talked, all he had to talk about was 9/11. That was it. Like, he couldn't talk about anything else but 9/11. Only thing he would talk about it. It was kind of funny because every time he got on stage, he would repeat himself and talk about 9/11. Like, he didn't have anything else to talk about. And I don't think he did, because I know he was mayor of New York, but most of the shit that he did was pretty fucked up. Like, to say, well, I cleaned up the city by getting rid of homeless people by just beating them and locking them up, or arresting and searching black people for no reason, or, you know, a lot of the things that he did to quote unquote clean up the city weren't exactly things that you should be doing. So he would just talk about 9/11. And what he did was, he didn't campaign in any of the small states. So it was like Iowa, New Hampshire, of course, and I don't remember what the other ones. I think Nevada has moved up, because it used to be in the middle. But I think we're like one of the first 5 states or something now. But I don't care, because I don't vote, and I'm not a member of any of the parties anyway. So even if I did, it wouldn't matter. But I totally forgot what I was going to say. The smaller, you know, states that are first, Giuliani didn't campaign in any of those states, really. He was just like, fuck it, I'm not going there. He's like, I'm going to Florida, because Florida, he had his strategy on the delegates. So his strategy on the delegates was, all right, look, I don't care about fucking Iowa. I don't care about New Hampshire, whatever. They don't have enough delegates. But Florida, I think, it's got to be in the top 10, no doubt, if not higher. Because if you think about it, it's all based on population. So you have California is probably number 1, I believe, or Texas. I don't know if California has a higher population than Texas. I mean, of course, Texas is bigger, but there's a lot of empty land in Texas. There's a lot of empty land in California too, actually, where all the mountains are. So it's between, you know, the top states are California, Texas. I think New York is up there, Florida, and I know Pennsylvania has a pretty high population. Iowa, not Iowa, sorry, Ohio. So those are some of the bigger states, and Ohio is always an important one because it's a swing state. I don't know that that's in the top 10, but I know definitely, of course, Texas, California, New York, and Florida are some of the very important states. So he said, fuck it, because Florida was closer. I don't know if it was just that year that it was closer to where it came up in the primaries. I'm thinking it was like 5th or something. And he just said, fuck it, I'm going to campaign in Florida. I'll win Florida, and then that will keep me in there. Then we'll get more donations. That's the other thing, too, that, and this is so ridiculous. You think about all the fucking money that they spend on campaigning, and some of it comes from the government, too. I don't know what the percentage is that comes from the government. Of course, you have companies and people donating as well. But there's just billions of dollars wasted in campaigns. No, I guess this is real because it's in the Washington Times. It's in the Blaze. It's in Raw Story. It's everywhere. He's nominated for the... So that's good. That makes me feel better about the Free Thought Project because I look at them as a reliable website. They're not one of the bullshit websites. So, yeah, he's nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. What the fuck is going on? I look at this shit, man, and we did a couple shows on Trump. One of the shows we did, Shire Dude wanted to do a show on some candidates. It's all his fault because once we started doing that, then I'm like, all right, well, let me do another show on candidates, and I ended up doing a couple since then. So we did a show on Trump and Bernie Sanders, but I don't know what the fuck is going on. I mean, you have Donald Trump. Does anybody listen to what this fucking guy says? Listen to how he acts? Listen to any of this shit? And I understand the not being fake part, but there's a difference between, and I'm going to go through all his history and all of that, but there's a difference between not being fake, being real, and being a fucking asshole. And he's always been an arrogant asshole. And like I said, the thing that bothers me the most, and I know some people will say this about me and they don't know me. And there's a lot of people that have been saying a bunch of shit about me that don't even fucking know me. And if it was 20 years ago, I take other alternatives to what I do. But being that it's maybe not 20, maybe 15. But it's whatever, if you want to say shit about me and make up lies and, just talk a bunch of shit, then that's on you. You want to waste your time doing that, okay. But Trump, one of the reasons for that too, though, is that if I go someplace where I don't know anybody, I'm just, I don't talk to a lot of people. I just kind of just sit back, because if I don't know anybody, I'm kind of shy where I'm not just going to walk up to people and start talking unless I'm drunk or something and I don't drink anymore. So I haven't drank, over a year. I think I drank once in 2 years almost. But it's something that sometimes may be taken as arrogant or something if you're shy, or if someone says hi to you. This used to happen to me in high school, I think, that people would say hi, or maybe junior high, and I'd say hi, but I'd say it so low that they didn't hear me, so they thought I was probably ignoring them when I wasn't, and then probably thought, oh, he thinks he's better than me or whatever, or so, but that's not a mistake with Trump. He does think he's better than most people. And he obviously makes that very clear in what he says. And I'll read some quotes later, and I'll try to remember some others. And I've mentioned this a million times, but just because we're talking about Trump again, is that I had thought this way before he ran for president. Every time I seen him on the news, when I saw his dumb show, I don't know if I ever caught the actual show or the commercials. I think I might have caught like the end of the show once. I remember one show when Dennis Rodman was on. So I think I might have caught the end of the show once. I couldn't stand it because I can't stand him. Like I said, back then I couldn't stand him. And then I caught the commercials all the time and the "you fired." And I couldn't stand him even way before he started commenting on politics, because it was a progression with him. And we'll get to that, where he went from being more of this celebrity ass, but he was friends with other celebrities. Like, he was friendly with Howard Stern. He was on a fucking Method Man tape. I had brought this up. If you go to 1994's, well, 94's Cal. It's the one after that. I think it's Cal 2000 or something. It's the Method Man's second CD. It has a song with D'Angelo on it. I remember that song. And then it has that song Cal 2000, I think. Anyway, Donald Trump is on it. And he left a message. He's like, "Hey, Method Man, when's the new album going to come out? We're waiting for it." You know, you'd see him in movies where he'd have cameos and stuff in movies. And that's why when I had noticed that there was a backlash to what he was saying once he got involved in politics. And really, I think the first biggest thing was the Obama cover. But I guess I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. But just real quick, that I thought that he would maybe stop that, because he does have all these celebrity friends. And he wanted to be a celebrity. So I thought that he would be, if anything, be a Democrat or keep his mouth shut about certain things, but he doesn't give a fuck. So I guess that's the one thing that I was saying, that maybe people see in him, that he doesn't give a fuck. I mean, I don't know, but there's a difference, again, between being real and not giving a fuck, and then just being like an ass. And Donald Trump, no doubt, is a fucking asshole. He really is. And yeah, I can't stand him. I could never stand him. And not only that, is I can't stand his policies as well. I mean, and we'll get into those also, but he wants to build this big fucking wall. And when you think about that, I know there's a lot of people out there that think, oh, a wall would be great, you know, keep out all the immigrants, all the people that want to keep immigrants out. My issue has always been, and I understand where people are coming from. Don't get me wrong. I do, when they're saying, well, what if, you know, I think a lot of it is bullshit, to be honest, but, you know, what if this or what if that or what if whatever. And you have people in the presidential race, especially Bush, who it's obviously not working, but he's focusing on that, trying to scare the fuck out of people. Rubio's another one who focuses a lot on that. And the big fat donut eating Christie, he focuses a lot on that too. And then of course you have Trump, Ted Cruz just mentions, well, we'll destroy ISIS, but he doesn't sit there and really focus, at least from what I've seen, he doesn't sit there and focus on everything that he's going to do to destroy ISIS. Like, oh, we're going to put, more cameras here, or we're going to build up our military, or we're going to do this and that. And Rubio and Trump and Christie to an extent. Christie was the moron who fucking said, so he was debating Rand Paul, and I think it was about taking a section out of the Patriot Act about being able to collect bulk data. Basically, what they're going to do anyway, and what they're doing now is just taking your fucking data, whether you allow them to or not, that they're just collecting all your data, loading it into a database, and then running whatever running whatever algorithms on that and flagging it if they need to. I don't know what the exact setup is, but if they ever need to go back to that data or sift through that data, they have it there. So they, of course, want more of that, and it's ridiculous. But I guess we'll see if Trump gets the Nobel Peace Prize. I guess the Nobel Peace Prize is just based on the fact that if you're well known. Oh, did Sanders get nominated too? What is this? Just nominate all politicians? I mean, it's just what? Is it a popularity contest? I mean, Obama got nominated before, and they probably just can't find enough people. I mean, but I'm sure, I guess either that or they're being very lazy, because I'm sure they could find people that are unknown that have contributed to peace. I mean, these are the fuckers that they got to nominate people like Donald Trump. So anyway, Trump came in second yesterday. New Hampshire is coming up next. Now, this gives me a great opportunity to talk about New Hampshire, the Free State Project, and having a lot of friends out there that I talk to periodically on Facebook and some on the phone occasionally, but more on Facebook. But it was funny because Mark Levin yesterday said how New Hampshire is becoming more like Massachusetts, and it used to be conservative. And I'm like, thinking of the Free State Project. And I mean, I don't know outside of the Free State Project how free New Hampshire is, but from what I understand, in listening to Free Talk Live a lot and talking with a lot of people that I know that live in New Hampshire, that it was free prior to that. I mean, on their license plate, live free or die. At least, a level of freedom. So, and I had grown up in Massachusetts, so I should have known more about that. And I'd been to New Hampshire, but that was more to go to like amusement parks and stuff like that. So I'd go, I'm trying to think of I know there was one, Rocky Point. I think that was in Providence, Rhode Island now. But there was amusement parks in New Hampshire. I don't know if they're still there. And when I was a kid, my father would take me to the amusement parks in New Hampshire. And that's pretty much it. And then I went there when I was older once to Hampton Beach. And then one day we drove up there on a Sunday to get alcohol, because you couldn't get alcohol in Massachusetts on a Sunday. I guess you can now, from what I've been told. I don't know. I've been in Las Vegas 15 years, so I'm not really familiar with the laws of Massachusetts, but my brother had told me that, yeah, you can buy it on Sundays now. So I don't know. A lot of the Free State people, and I mean, there's only a couple thousand, but then there's still a lot of, I think, freedom-oriented people I don't know how many of them just don't vote and how many would vote for Donald Trump. Now, from what I understand, because I saw a post from Darryl W. Perry, and you can check him out on, what is the name of his show? I know I have his, I just don't have my toolbars up because I actually get the feed of his show because I was going to play it on my station, and I still will at some point. Peace, Love, Liberty. That's what it is. It's because I was looking at a Word document and not at the internet, but Peace, Love, Liberty. And at some point when I finally set all these up, there'll be some shows from other networks that I'll also play. Probably Rob Matthias' show as well. Now I can't think of his show. I like Go Brain Dead at Night. Rebel Love Show. So Rob had said, hey, if you want to play my show, you can as well. If you want. I'm like, yeah, sure. So as soon as I get everything together, I'll probably replay some of these shows to take up more time because ultimately I want to get to a place where I want to have 24 stuff running 24 hours along with continuing to write articles on the website and to produce some TV content on the YouTube channel. And I actually went to school for film, and I don't know if that will ever work out, if I'll ever make money out of it, if it will ever become anything. Unlike some person who fucking claimed I said, I'm going to be bigger than Alex Jones. Now, first of all, I would never say that because that's just... But if I was going to say I would be bigger than somebody, it wouldn't be Alex Jones. But I don't know if they're like partially retarded. I might have said I want to be like what Alex Jones does. Do the same type thing where he does a radio show, he has a website, and he has his news and has that. So I may have said that I want to be, that's an example of what I want to do. Now, I don't think I'll be able to ever accomplish that, but that would be an example of what I want to do at some point. At least get that going and then see if I can even make a little money off it. I mean, it's a very hard business to get into and be successful in. So, but I'm trying my hardest and seeing what I can do. And as far as all the haters go, just fuck them and just keep going. Just keep putting stuff out there and doing what I can to give everybody the best possible programming out there. And I don't look at it as I'm better than anybody else or I'm trying to be better than anybody else. I'm just trying to be the best I can possibly be. So I really want to get into doing some videos, though, and posting some of those up on the YouTube channel, as well as probably at some point airing the show live on YouTube. Right now it posts after, but there's no video. So I mean airing the show live on YouTube with video. So I'm going to look into that. I don't know when, because again, with all the other stuff I have a full-time job, obviously, and all the stuff with the show. There's a lot of shit to do. If you want to have a successful show, not to mention, just the internet alone, if you post an article on the internet or when you're updating your pages, you want to make sure your SEO is good so that you'll be found in the search results. And this is just stuff I'm just learning more about. I'm no expert in any of them. So one step at a time, and this is a long-term project. So one step at a time. And right now, we got the show going, and hopefully soon I'll set up the other shows so at least I can get those played on my network as well, to add some shows to the network and give them hopefully a bigger audience. I don't know. I don't know that it will make a difference being on my network, but hey, it may. So we'll see. But anyways, back to Donald Trump. So he's going into New Hampshire next, supposedly now because of, and I had just heard this right before the show, because of how good Mark Rubio has been doing or had done in Iowa. I guess he came in third place, but he got a large percentage of the vote. And they're saying that he's the only one that Hillary is afraid of, and that he's starting to surge, I guess. It's weird how you look at these polls, and like I was talking about Rudy Giuliani in 2008, how it showed that he would have beaten Hillary, and that's when Hillary was, this is before Barack Obama was even well known at all, and that he had the highest percentage of votes out of anybody. And then look what happened with him. He just totally crashed and burned. So, again, I think it's all rigged anyway. But it's just kind of funny how they go through it. And how much of it's planned and how much of it's just, okay, we just got to make sure if it's more monitored. I think it's more monitored than anything, because just by the news stories that you put in government media and documentaries and information and all of this stuff, I mean, a lot of it is enough to knock people out of races, or knock them down in the polls. So, and government media can easily do that. So, and then, of course, you have the political parties, the money, government media, all of that. So anyway, so for Trump, he grew up, I guess, I was going to say middle class, but I don't know what you'd call him. His father was a millionaire. He started building houses in Queens and Brooklyn. And there was something fucked up that he wouldn't rent to black people, his father. So if you think about that, now it doesn't necessarily mean anything as far as Donald Trump, because some people can have racist parents and totally go the same way, the opposite way, and use that as, my parents were like that. That's fucked up. I'm not gonna do the same thing. But some people, they go the same way as their parents do. I think it depends. And I think it depends on subtleties as well. Because looking at people that I knew that their parents were maybe not straight up racist, but or they would tell me or whatever, it depended on the subtlety. But then again, you'd have brothers that one would be racist and one wouldn't. So you never know. I would say, I do think the word racist is thrown around, but I would say if you won't rent to people because they're black, that sounds kind of racist to me. So anyway, as a teen, he was considered a troublemaker, and he was sent to military school at 13. I guess that didn't do that good, because look at how he fucking acts now. That's probably like Trump is like 13, right? How he acts now, and the attitude and the arrogance and the condescending remarks and all that. See, he was probably trying to do that shit at 13, but they were like, hey, you're 13, you can't act like that. So he was sent to military school. He had said that it was a good experience for him, that it helped him, I guess. I don't know. When they said troublemaker, they really didn't go into details. They didn't say he was arrested. They didn't say he was beating kids up. They just said troublemaker. So I look at him as like now he's a troublemaker and look at him that way compared to being someone that was out there getting in fights and doing stuff like that. But a lot of times when you have rich parents that can afford things like that easily, they'll, send you right to military school. So I guess starting out, he borrowed $1 million from his father. So that's how he started out. And most people cannot just like go to their father and say, Dad, can I borrow $1 million? I mean, my father had died in 2011. We didn't get anything, not even like any type of life insurance policy or anything. So I don't know if I could borrow. Well, maybe I could borrow $100, maybe, but probably not. Never mind a million. So he was given the family company at 25. He did have 5 siblings. So, and his mother was born in Scotland as well. Not that that means anything. It's just some more information. But I don't know with his siblings, they've kind of stayed out of the media. And that might be, I mean, they might be very successful as well. Or they might be people that, took the money and did something they wanted to do. Like, say what I'm doing. Not that they're doing radio, but they wanted to be a painter and they couldn't make a lot of money off it. But if they got a big inheritance from their father, they could use that money to live off of and be a painter and, not make a lot of money. So that gives them that opportunity. They may be in the same type business. This is one thing I didn't look up because I didn't really think it mattered. Or different businesses, and they could be very successful. But as I mentioned before too, I mean, you have billionaires that nobody knows who they are, and they do that on purpose. A lot of people don't want to be in the limelight. Donald Trump definitely, and they said his father was the opposite. He didn't want to be in the limelight. He was not somebody who wanted the celebrity status. Trump right away was in the public eye, and he even married his first wife. Ivanka was some kind of Olympic, I want to say gymnast, but I don't think she was a gymnast, but she did something. She was some kind of athlete. So I think she was known already. So that also that relationship there definitely, I would say, gave them more, publicity and put them more in the public eye. So you have this millionaire that's dating this athlete, and then they get married. So he ended up getting supposedly, and this was kind of, it depends what, it was open to interpretation how he got this, whether he got it all at once when his father died, or he got it at over a period of time, but he got $75 million in inheritance from his father. So I assume that the rest of his siblings did as well. And then in 1978, he had lobbied for the Jacob Javits Center in New York. I don't know a lot about it. It's a convention center. But I guess that started a feud between him and Mayor Koch. And Mayor Koch was in office. He had to be like forever, man. And there were rumors that he was gay. Was it Mayor Koch that there were rumors that he was gay, or am I thinking of somebody different? No, Yeah, it was Koch, because Cuomo was the one I was thinking. I always confuse Cuomo and Koch. Yeah, it was Mayor Koch. That there were rumors that he was gay. I think he was gay. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But there was a whole big supposedly feud between them because he didn't talk to the mayor first and whatever. And then Donald goes, and the way somebody described him, because I had watched some documentaries, I think they were from the History Channel, but the way he was described was he liked to buy up shit, but he didn't like to run it. So, like, he bought Eastern Airlines, which I'm sure nobody's ever heard of. I've never heard of it, in '89. So I should have probably heard of it, but yeah, where was I flying when I was like that young? I actually didn't fly until I was 22. It's the first time I was on a plane. But I guess he got $380 million from 22 banks, bought Eastern Airlines, and then he defaulted on the loan after 15 months. So he was somebody who, from what a source said, now this was just the opinion of someone in the documentary, that he liked to own shit, he liked to buy shit. And it seems like that if you hear him talk, like, I own the Trump Taj Mahal, and I own the whatever, and I'm buying up this deal. Like he wants to have deals so he can brag and talk about them, not so he can actually run them. Or I know he wants to make the money, so you have that part of it, but it just seemed like, from what I heard, and not just from what I had heard, but you can kind of see this, I think, in his personality, if you at least his public persona, that he wants shit to talk about, to talk about how I own this and I own that and I own that. There was some story where he was he was being interviewed, and he was like, I own 80% of this. And then they were like, he was like, nah, I own 70. And then he was like, nah, I own 50. So I don't know. I can't recall what happened that he finally admitted that he only owned 50%. Or maybe the interviewer was like, well, I thought, this person came in with you, or this person. So in his personal life, he's been married 3 times. Currently, he's married to Melania, who's a model. They got married when she was 34. She's from Yugoslavia or one of those countries. And he had one kid with her at the kid's probably like a couple years old, so in his 60s, because he was born in 46. And he married Ivanka. He had 3 kids with her. The one that's the daughter there, that's really cute, and 2 sons. They all work for him. And then he had a kid with Marla Maples, who he was cheating on Ivanka with. And then he had a kid with Melania, his current wife. So what he was really known for, of course, besides, being in, that put him in the tabloids. And I guess he was in there probably, his relationship with Ivanka as well. But that put him all over the tabloids. His cheating on Ivanka with Marla Maples. And I even remember that. And I'm like, who the fuck cares about this Donald Trump, guy? Because it's like he's some guy who owns, some fucking buildings. And then he got, and I don't know the year, but he got involved in Atlantic City. So I know he had the Trump Tower in New York City. allegedly he employed undocumented workers, but he says all this stuff now about immigration, of course, and that he made a bunch of payoffs. Well, they weren't technically payoffs. They were donations to both Democrats and Republicans, to both sides. He's talked about that. And then, you know, he donates to the campaign. He comes looking for favors. Oh, I need a permit for this or that. And that's how you get it. You keep donating to the campaigns and they get the money, they get reelected, and you get what you want. So, and then somebody had said that he had skirted the law and maybe even went over it with a lot of the things that he was doing. But I take that as, I mean, for fucking building shit, you have so many building codes, especially New York, so many different permits and this and that. And so I don't know if it was being referred to more under that premise or not. But as I had mentioned, I do remember the tabloids with Marla Maples. I always remember her fucking name because I remember, like, People magazine and shit. I think my mother used to get that. No, she used to get Us. But, you know, going grocery shopping with my mother because I was young back then, and, you know, seeing Donald Trump or hearing about it on TV or whatever about his cheating on Marla Maples. And again, this is a guy who fucking builds buildings. Who gives a fuck? So he got involved in Atlantic City. And I think at his height, he may have owned like 5 or 6 casinos. He had the Trump Plaza Atlantic City was his first casino. The Trump Castle, which was actually built by Hilton, and Hilton couldn't get a gaming license, so he bought that up. So he had the building all done, all ready to go, and just scooped in like, oh, y'all can't get a gaming license? All right, I'll buy this from you. Then I didn't know this. I probably did, and I just don't remember because I used to watch Tyson's fights back in the late 80s. But he got involved with boxing, and I think, was it the Trump Taj Mahal where they would fight at? I know at the casinos in New Jersey, they would have fights there. So, and Mike said he'd vote for him. I saw a documentary that Mike Tyson was in it. He had a good relationship with Trump, he said. And he's like, yeah, I'll vote for him. And then I guess what happened was 3 of his top executives, the ones that actually did work, died in a plane crash or a helicopter crash. And then he ended up going bankrupt. At least the casinos did. Now, there was a article in Forbes magazine or something with the Forbes 400 that said that he went from 1.7 billion to 0. Now, I know when you file for bankruptcy, obviously, and let me, I guess, explain this briefly to people who don't know, and I'm not an expert in this, but I do have an MBA, so I remember going over this in school. Not that it's that complicated anyway, but when you have a corporation, obviously, what happens is your only liability is whatever money you put in. But they can't touch your personal assets. So if you have whatever, $10 million in personal assets and your casino goes bankrupt, they can't take your $10,000. Now, if it's a sole proprietorship, they can. And that's why most people structure companies where they have limited liability, where the only liability is, if you put $10 million into that business, you can't get that back. That goes to, the bankruptcy court, and they distribute it however, they distribute it, depending on if you have stockholders or creditors or whatever. So the other part I don't really understand, because I did hear that he was broke, and in one of the other documentaries they had said at one point that he had a negative whatever in income, so meaning he was personally in debt more than he was. He owed more than he had. See, people don't understand. They think when people declare bankruptcy, like, or their business declares bankruptcy, that it means like they're totally broken. It doesn't mean that. And even when people personally declare bankruptcy, they think the same thing. And it's really, you can protect your assets. Now, I know recently, and when I say recently, I think it was the past like 10 or 15 years, that they changed the bankruptcy laws. But one of the things that bankruptcy does is it gets you out of contracts. So people use bankruptcy for that. But it is harder. I did file actually for bankruptcy in 2010 because I didn't have a job, and my house went from being worth, or what I paid for it, $260, my townhouse, to $80,000. So I declared bankruptcy, and I was laid off from my job, so I didn't have a job. So I was able to convert to Chapter 7. Usually what will happen is if you declare bankruptcy and you have a job, you'll have to pay a certain amount of money each month over 5 years. And they'll give some of that money to the creditors as opposed to them getting nothing. And I don't know how they determine the hierarchy of who gets what. And I know it's stocks that at first it's like they have different names for the higher stocks, but like the stocks that you would buy on the stock market, that's just common stock. You're never going to get any money for that. But like the executive stocks or the preferred stocks, or they might get some money out of it, but you're definitely not getting any money out of common stock if a company declares bankruptcy, because it's going to go to so many other places first. So I'm not really clear on the Donald Trump's going from 1.7 billion to zero and him owing more money personally than he actually had. So I'm still not clear on that. But anyway, because then how did he come back from that? So it kind of doesn't make sense. I mean, filing bankruptcy with a company, you still have all your personal assets. So, and I guess you could say, how did he come back from that? You get loans from the bank. If you're somebody like Donald Trump, see, that's the whole thing that's kind of fucked up too. You think about shit like this. You have people that have bankrupted who knows how many fucking companies. You know, at some point, I would hope that they shut somebody off. A lot of times they give loans, because I remember learning about this shit. They give fucking loans to people to pay off the loans that they already have. So if you have a loan and you can't pay it, they'll give you a loan on top of that. And then you use that loan to just pay, say, the interest on the other loan. And then they go as far as they can with the loans until, bankruptcy. But to the bank, it's all revenue. And then they write it off. It's fucked up the way, and it changes all the time. But the GAAP, the generally, what is it called? General accepted accounting principles, and how you can do accounting for banks, what's okay and what's not. And I'm far from an expert on this, but I know a little about it. But I know they change stuff all the time. but it's like how you recognize revenue and how you would recognize revenue from a loan and all of that stuff. But for the actual people that are selling the loans, it worked for them. I know that there's a benefit to the bank, and it would seem like there's not, right? Because if you have a loan for $100 million and the interest on that alone is whatever, 30, well, I'd say 30 million, but say $1 million a month, and then they give you another loan so you can pay back the interest on that loan so that you don't default on that loan, and then you can pay back some of the other loan. It's like somehow the bank still makes money, and it doesn't matter anyway because they get money from the Fed. Now, obviously, not being an expert in this at all, there's a lot more to it than that I'm sure is somebody that is more familiar with all that could explain. But I know they do things like that. Like they'll keep giving loans on top of loans. So somebody like Donald Trump, I'm sure, just because he bankrupted a couple companies, could still go in and get another loan because he's Donald Trump, which is really fucked up if you think about it. So the average person who may have never had a company but may have never bankrupted a company can't walk in, has a great business plan but can't walk into a bank and get a loan to start their business. But somebody who's bankrupted a couple companies but had some successes can. It's fucked up. Anyway, he ended up making $200 million off of The Apprentice. So there were 11 seasons. He also, earlier in his career, he had a game that failed, trumped the game, and he had clothes. And when he started coming out and talking about politics, that's kind of when a lot of this stuff kind of went to shit. So like his clothes, they were selling them at Van Heusen. And at the time, my fiance was working there. And I guess they were getting rid of all the Trump stuff because of the things he was saying. Now, I know that a lot of the things that he said were totally mistaken. Like people were saying like he hates Mexicans or something fucked up like that, which is not the case. I know he doesn't actually hate Mexicans. So some of these things got blown out of proportion, but I think that's why he got fired from the show too. I don't like to see that. Donald, you're fired. And I don't know if he still has his clothing line now, but I know that they had gotten rid of it. I don't know if anybody else bothers with it. And they put it on like clearance just to get rid of it. So the first thing I remember him coming up with is he started talking about the birther stuff. So I'm hearing two things now because they're saying the same thing about Ted Cruz. And if this is the truth, then it wouldn't matter with Obama neither. What I always had thought is that you had to be, when they say natural born citizen, that you had to be born within the United States. But from what I'm hearing now is one of your parents has to be born within the United States, and you have to be a U.S. citizen. Because if that's true, then in the case of Obama, it wouldn't have mattered whether he was born in Hawaii or not, because his mother, and there was no disputing this, his mother was born in the U.S. And Ted Cruz was born in Canada. And his father was born in Cuba, and his mother was born in the United States. So what he's saying is, yes, he is a naturally born citizen because his mother was born in the United States. But that's what I had always thought. I had always thought that it meant that you had to be born in the United States. So Ted Cruz in his interviews, and when other people are talking about it, except for Trump, are saying that, no, that's not true. But they never came out and said that about Obama. They never said, well, it doesn't matter anyway because his mother was born in the United States. So what's the fucking difference? And I know things like military bases, and if you're on duty at a military base, that's considered quote unquote U.S. soil. So that's irrelevant. But being born in Canada, I don't know. But he swears that it doesn't matter because his mother was born in the U.S. So if that's the truth, that you have to be born within the U.S. to be president, then I don't know what happens then. And I'm sure that he wouldn't even bother running for president and all the time and all the money and all of this if he wasn't sure that he couldn't actually run, because that would just be stupid. So I'm sure that he's correct in what he's saying. But that's when, before that, I had never heard Obama say anything about politics. I guess, sorry, I kind of skipped something, that he hired an exploratory committee to run for the Reform Party. And I guess they had somebody, so he didn't end up running. But before that, I had never heard him talk about politics at all. And I thought that was something he stayed away from on purpose, again, because he was friends with all these celebrities. And definitely, you don't want to be a Republican or even a libertarian or anything like that and have all these Hollywood friends and celebrity friends. So supposedly, I guess he didn't give a fuck, which was kind of surprising to me, because it seemed like, I think I heard an interview on Howard Stern after he had came out about the birther thing, and that really kind of surprised me. And I think he asked him about it, and it almost seemed like he was like sad or something, or I don't know. I can't explain it. But that's where he had started about that. And, you know, of course, before that, his involvement in politics was just giving money to both sides. But, you know, you do that just like you would hedge your bets, because whoever wins, you know, you're not supporting one or the other. You're just saying, look, if you win, I need this. You do this for me. If you win, you know, same thing. I do this, or you do this for me. So I'm going to take a quick break. When we get back, I'm going to go into the platform of Donald Trump, as well as his personality, some of the quotes that he has said, and why people like him in the first place. And I don't get it. And if I actually thought that the elections weren't rigged, I would say a Trump presidency is scary. However, being that I do think it doesn't matter who's in there, the same thing's going to happen, then it doesn't matter. I think an anybody presidency is scary. So if you'd like to call into the show, you could call in at 702-470-6786. 702-472-7664. Again, that's 702-470-7664. You can also Skype into the show at Nonpartisan Liberty for All. That's Nonpartisan Liberty for All. Send a contact request and just your name and where you're calling from and what you want to talk about. And to expedite your call, if you want to call in, just send me a text and with the same information, your name, where you're calling from, and what you want to talk about. So we will be right back after this on Nonpartisan Liberty for All. And check us out at nonpartisanlibertyforall.com.
Less than 30 days away from the first contest in the 2016 race, and the frontrunner, Donald Trump, now unveiling the first ad of his entire campaign so far, and here it is.
The politicians can pretend it's something else, but Donald Trump calls it radical Islamic terrorism. That's why he's calling for a temporary shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until we can figure out what's going on.
There you have it. Just a beginning look at the Trump ad campaign. He will spend about $2 million a week, he says, on ads, though he really doesn't have to. As he pointed out yesterday in the Sunday shows, he didn't really spend a dime so far on any of them, even though he had expected to. The frontrunner says he, quote, kind of felt badly that he wasn't spending any money and everybody else was. Chief political correspondent Carl Cameron live on the campaign trail in Boone, Iowa today. Ted Cruz hosting a big campaign event there this morning. So, Carl, a lot of noise for Cruz there today in Iowa, but there's also a lot of talk about the front runner as well.
Sure, and it's kind of hard to believe that Trump feels too bad about the fact that he's $35 million under budget, having not spent the $20 million he had budgeted for ads for just last year. And now we are exactly 4 weeks from the Iowa caucuses, and Trump and Ted Cruz are in a real battle. Cruz now leads most of the polls here in Iowa, although there was one from CNN recently that showed that Trump was still ahead. And Cruz has a tremendous amount riding on this. He's got front-runner status to protect now. There'll be a big target on his back, and the last 4 weeks will be very intense. And now comes this Trump ad, which has already been all over cable news all this morning, and it illustrates exactly what Trump's point was. Anything he does gets a ton of attention. Here's a little bit of the policy that actually went into the new Trump ad. Watch.
He'll quickly cut the head off ISIS and take their oil. And he'll stop illegal immigration by building a wall on our southern border that Mexico will pay for.
We will make America great again.
Donald Trump will steal everything in your house, including your wife.
These are the themes that
Donald Trump will make everything great again for America while he robbed you blind.
And now, as promised, the man who lives in his own golden tower in New York City. For that matter, he could live just about anywhere in the Western Hemisphere because he has developed magnificent tracts of land and owns the gleaming casinos and hotels which are on top of them. We could only be talking about Donald Trump. Thank you, Mr. Trump, for joining us this morning.
Hiya, Dan.
I have heard that you are worth something like $3 billion, but to read your book, The Art of the Deal, you don't care to count exactly how much you're worth, do you?
Well, I don't know what I'm worth. I know that from the standpoint of the book, I've done a book. The charities go to, the money all goes to charity that we're making from the book. The book has become a tremendous success, which I'm happy to say. And it's something that makes a lot of charities very happy, too, because, as I said, the money goes to charity. So I'm very happy about it.
It tells you that a lot of people want to make a lot of money. Are they going to learn that by reading your book?
Well, they might learn that, and they also might learn that they shouldn't try making too much money, because I really have a theory that some people are not destined to make a lot of money, and that's fine, and they can be very happy. In fact, they can be much happier by not. Those people shouldn't be, because they'll ruin their lives. I mean, they'll go and they'll put up their house, and they'll mortgage their cars and everything else they own, and they'll go into business, and they shouldn't necessarily be in business. Not everybody is meant to be a business person.
Now, you own these incredible casinos and hotels. And the towers in New York City, you're going to build this world's tallest building now in Television City. When is enough enough? Or will Donald Trump never be satisfied with the deal-making and the acquisitions?
Well, I'm like a lot of my friends from Houston. I just keep chugging. I mean, all you can do is just keep going. Life is sort of a pretty short experience, and you have to maintain some kind of an equilibrium, and the way I maintain that is to work. And I enjoy what I do. I love what I do, and I hope I do it well. And so I just keep going forward, Dan, and it's so far it's paid off.
Are you smarter than most people who would call themselves entrepreneurs? Do you work harder? What is the deal with you anyway?
Well, that's an interesting question. I don't know if anyone's ever asked me the question, am I smarter than other people? I think that without a certain innate intelligence and without a certain drive, you're not going to be successful.
I'll bet that you're used as a person an awful lot. I know that people sue you because you have deep pockets. People invite you to their banquets to promote their own causes. And in a more personal way, I suppose that people come up to Donald Trump, and to them, money is your complete identity. And they don't approach you with the kind of personal respect that I'm sure you deserve. That must aggravate you, must bother you.
Well, it becomes a somewhat impersonal life, unfortunately, and I will tell you that I'm not sure that that's a very good thing or a very healthy thing, but it's where I am, and there's not, unfortunately, very much I can do about it, but maybe I wouldn't want to. I have my friends. I have some very, very good friends, and I guess I have some very good enemies, and I like it that way somehow, and I really believe in trashing your enemies and really being loyal to your friends. I'm a strong believer in loyalty, Dan.
I keep wondering about little details of your life. Are you carrying your wallet this morning?
I am carrying my wallet.
How much cash do you have in your wallet?
Probably none. I don't keep cash in a wallet, and I don't carry very much cash. You know, there's not very much reason to carry cash, I guess, but I don't carry very much. But I keep none in my wallet, I can honestly say.
Your credit's probably pretty good.
I guess the credit is good.
Do you pump your own gas at the service station?
No, not generally, and if I can, you know, it's one of the nice little luxuries in life to be able to say, hey, I'll pay the extra 5 cents a gallon.
And on, say, Friday or Saturday night, do you ever sit around in your underwear and order pizza, rent a movie,
Absolutely.
Just stay at home?
Absolutely. That's an important element in life. I mean, frankly, you're mentioning one of my best and favorite phases in life. I love just being home, relaxing, take it easy, watching television, and maybe necessarily if there's pizza, that's good too. But there's nothing like that kind of relaxation, Dan.
In your cozy 80-foot living room. What doesn't money buy anyway?
Well, I've always said, you know, money isn't a totally essential ingredient, but it does make life a little bit easier in terms of the medical and in terms, you know, people say, well, money can't buy happiness, and they're absolutely right. But it does make it easier. It means that there are problems that you would have if you didn't have money that you just won't have, you know, to the same extent. So yeah. I really look at money as being something that is totally unessential, but something that you should certainly try and have enough of.
Because death is the great equalizer, and because we all leave this life with exactly the same amount, I wonder if you have much of a spiritual life.
Well, I'm not sure that we do leave with the exact same amount. I mean, I'm leaving a lot of money to charity, as an example, when I leave, and I think that's going to benefit a lot of other people. So I don't know if we can really say that we leave with the exact same amount. I'm going to leave with a very good feeling that I've done something and left something behind.
That gives you up to 3 years of continuous pregnancy prevention.
Donald Trump has surprised many by not only entering the race for the Republican Party's 2016 nomination for president, but quickly building a substantial lead in the polls. So who exactly is Donald Trump? Donald John Trump was born in 1946 in Queens, New York. He's been wealthy his entire life. His father, Fred Trump, built a very successful real estate development business in the New York area, allowing he and his wife, the Scottish immigrant Mary McLeod, to settle their family in the upscale Jamaica Estates neighborhood. There, Donald attended the private Kew Forest School before his parents sent him to the New York Military Academy when he was 13 years old. Donald did well and eventually earned his bachelor's degree in economics from the University of Pennsylvania. When he was 25, Donald moved to Manhattan and took a bigger role in the family business. But within 2 years, he and the company were in hot water, as Trump management was accused by the Justice Department of violating the Fair Housing Act by refusing to rent or negotiate rentals because of race and color. Though Trump eventually settled the charges out of court, the company was still blasted as anti-black on the front page of the New York Times. Donald became president of the company in 1974, and after an investment from his father, took on bigger projects in Manhattan, with some notable successes, including selling the property to the city of New York that became the Javits Convention Center. Around this time, he began his 15-year marriage to the Czech-born athlete and model Ivana Zhajnikova. They became fixtures on the New York social circuit, and their 1992 divorce played out in the tabloids. In 1993, Donald married the actress Marla Maples, the woman he had been cheating on his first wife Ivana with for 6 years. Meanwhile, bad business decisions, like the acquisition of the Taj Mahal Atlantic City Hotel and Casino, had him deep in the red by the end of the 80s, forcing him to declare several businesses bankrupt, costing his investors hundreds of millions of dollars. But the Donald doesn't stay down and out for long. With the help of about $75 million in inheritance after his father's death, his fortunes were buoyed once again. By the early 2000s, Trump's name began appearing on developments and towers all over the country and world, including across the street from the United Nations headquarters and towers in Chicago, Honolulu, and Toronto, though projects in Fort Lauderdale, New Orleans, and Dubai failed to reach completion. In 2005, Donald married his third and current wife, the Slovenian model Melania Naus. But what really put Trump on the map of American consciousness is his role as the executive producer and host of the popular NBC reality TV show The Apprentice and its spin-off Celebrity Apprentice, in which contestants engage in competitive business endeavors before final meetings in a boardroom set across the table from the Donald and some of his most trusted associates like daughter Ivanka. Trump has made out like a bandit from his involvement in the show, earning more than $200 million over its 11-year run. This year, Donald declared his candidacy for the Republican presidential nomination in a long-winded, completely off-the-cuff speech that was widely mocked by the American media. Building on his xenophobic hatred of President Obama and unsubstantiated claims that the commander-in-chief was actually born in Kenya, Trump's main campaign pledge has been that he would build a massive wall along the entire length of the U.S.-Mexico border to keep Mexico from sending its criminals to the United States, despite the numerous documented cases of Trump employing undocumented workers in many of his building projects and hotels. Trump's unconventional approach to politics and brash statements have quickly established him as the clear frontrunner of the nearly 20 major candidates vying for the Republican nomination, even though he's never been elected to public office and used to hold fairly progressive political positions like being pro-abortion and supporting the establishment of a universal healthcare system. After declaring his candidacy, federal election regulators released new details of Trump's wealth and financial holdings that strongly contradict his claims that his, quote, net worth is in excess of $10 billion, end quote. In fact, the government says Trump's assets are worth far less, at about $1.4 billion. Thanks for watching. Like this video if it helped you learn a thing or two about the Donald, and subscribe if you haven't yet to join the conversation.
Everything's set for tonight, Mr. Trump.
I wonder what Trump's game is this time.
Trump's got a new game. Trump's got a new deal.
What's your game, Donald?
Heard about Trump's new deal? What?
Trump has a new game. What is it?
Mr. Trump, Mr. Trump. Is it an airline? A new convention center? Mr. Trump. Is it a convention center? Mr. Trump, please.
My new game is Trump, the game.
Trump, the game, where you deal for everything you've ever wanted to own. Because it's not whether you win or lose, it's whether you win.
Yes!
Play Trump, the game, from Milton Bradley.
I think you'll like it.
And now, a message from Donald and Melania Trump.
Good evening. As the man who's almost certainly your next president, I wanted to give you a chance to get to know the real Donald. Now, you're probably looking at this lovely woman here and thinking, whoa, who's this? Another bangable daughter? Actually, it's my beautiful wife, Melania.
Hello.
She's great, just great.
Welcome to our humble gold house.
Not bad, right? I mean, talk about foreign policy experience. We got the same interior decorator as Saddam Hussein. Now, I asked Melania to be here tonight to help me clear up some of the lies that those losers and morons are saying about me. Like that I hate women. How can I hate women when I've got the world's greatest woman right here?
Yes, Donald loves women. You know, he always saying, that woman is knockout, that woman is a 10, that woman used to be a 10, but hey, she's still a 7, you know? And he always very supportive to me. Like, when I asked to go spa or go shopping, you know, he always say, that's fine, go.
All of this stuff's been blown out of proportion. I mean, like the Megyn Kelly stuff.
Yes, people say he was not nice to her, but he was worried. You know, he said she's bleeding everywhere. She should go to hospital.
That's right. I was actually afraid she was gonna die. Honestly. I love Megyn Kelly. I love her. I think she's great. She's talented and beautiful. But she's a heifer who's always on her period, and I hate her, and I hope she dies.
You know, I think they always twist his words, like with immigration.
Clearly, I don't hate immigrants.
Yes, I know he's pro-immigration because I was in Slovenia and Donald saw a picture of me in a magazine that he called me and said, hey, come to America.
It's very true.
And they say, I can't come, you crazy old man. I don't have green card. And he says, screw green cards. They're for poor people. Just get over here. Yeah, he said, what can they do? Round up all the illegal immigrants and deport them? That's impossible. You know, logistically, how are they going to find everyone?
Well, we'll find a way.
You know, Donald is so smart. He's so good with the media. You know, he knows that if he said the craziest thing, he will go up in the poll numbers.
No. Come on, Melania. That's just not true. I don't say outrageous things just for poll numbers. I speak from my heart.
Really? Okay, because I hear your numbers go down a little this week.
Mexicans are stealing our children.
You see? He does not even have to think about it. He's genius.
Thank you, darling.
You know, that's why I don't get how critics say he has no ideas or plans, because he has so many. Tell them your plan for economy.
Well, it's very simple. You see, I get in there. Taxes go down. Everybody gets a job. Salaries go way up. We build a wall. It's huge. Over in China, they're going to say, now that's a wall.
You see, and this is how I know Donald is so smart, because I hear this, and to me, it's, you know, just jumble of words, like it makes no sense. But, you know, I'm not smart like Donald. I didn't go to Hogwarts, School of Business.
You want to know my plan? Here's my plan. I got the smartest guys. So what do you think? Are you ready to do this, America?
Yes, please, put Donald in the White House. You know, he is total package. He's strong.
No, I didn't ask her to say that.
He is wise.
This is all off the cuff.
He is good in bed.
Those are her words.
You know, he's the only man who can unite both sides. Because he's running as Republican, but his ideas are actually more like Democrat.
Well, that's not really
Yeah, actually, he was Democrat before he was Republican.
I think we're getting a little off
and
topic,
on social
actually,
issues, you know, you can be gay, you can have abortion. He don't care.
Promoting the ideas of true freedom and liberty, nonpartisan liberty for all radio with Dave Bourne.
And we are back. That last clip was from Saturday Night Live. I figured everybody would know it was from a comedy show. So, but it does kind of sound like him. Not exactly the voice, but how he would actually act, except he's more of an asshole. So before I have a whole bunch, not a whole bunch, but I have a lot of other things to get to regarding Trump and his actual platform and his personality and really why people are so supportive of him, which I just don't get. So we got all of that to get to. But before we get to that, I'm going to get to a couple of other stories that I wanted to cover. So in Washington, D.C., and this is just really fucked up, and I think they did this in 2 other cities as well. But in Washington, D.C., they, I guess, passed a bill. And Washington, D.C. is weird because it's pretty much run by Congress, from what I understand. But they have, I think, a city council. I'm not entirely familiar with the government setup of Washington, D.C., but I know pretty much it's run by Washington, D.C., Congress, and the president over there. But they do have like a mayor and a city council. They had the mayor for a while there. He got caught smoking crack, and then he got reelected. And yeah, not that I don't think there's anything wrong with doing drugs, but if you're the mayor and you get caught smoking crack, I don't think you should go to jail. But I wouldn't vote for you again. You know, I don't think the mayor should be on crack, but that's a whole nother issue. Anyway, they voted unanimously Tuesday to approve a bill that includes a proposal to pay residents a stipend not to commit crime. It's a program based on a program in Richmond, California that says has contributed to deep reductions in crime there. So essentially what they're going to do under the bill, they'd identify up to 200 people a year who are considered at risk of either committing or becoming victims of violent crime. Why would they be? I don't understand the victims part. And those people would be directed to participate in behavioral therapy and other programs. And if they fulfill those obligations and stay out of trouble, they would be paid. Now, the bill doesn't specify the value, but they can, participants in California receive up to $9,000 per year. And that's, you know, that is like reinforcement of bad behavior in a way, because you're paying, I think it's just fucking ridiculous. You're paying them to do something that they just shouldn't do anyway. Now, of course, you have all these crimes that I don't believe should be crimes, but I'm making the assumption that these are actual real criminals because they're saying they're, you know, at risk and they're committing violent crimes. So I'm assuming that these are people that have killed people, beaten people, done things like that. But that aside, so real criminals, because you have plenty of people that are in jail that are not, in my definition, criminals, that haven't hurt anybody, that haven't done anything to hurt anyone's property or done anything that they should be in jail for. But in this case, it seems like these are people that have done things that they should have went to jail for. But it's irrelevant. So you're going to say, hey, you know what? If you stay out of trouble, don't kill anybody or don't, beat anybody up, don't do any armed robbery, we'll pay you not to do that. And how fucked up is that? Why don't you just take the whole salary of the fucking police department and say, hey, you know what? We'll just pay you this. And then you don't have to commit any crimes. You'll just get the money to live on. And then you'll be fine. I mean, I understand wanting to prevent crimes, but there was a quote that I found from the paper that I wanted to read. and this is one of the guys, a former prosecutor. He says, I want to prevent violent crime, particularly gun violence, by addressing the root causes and creating opportunities for people, particularly those individuals who are at the highest risk of offending. McDuffie, a former prosecutor, said in a letter to constituents last week. So essentially, you're saying to them that, hey, we're going to pay you, and that's how we're going to stop you from committing crime. Instead of in a city where guns are basically banned, although the Supreme Court overturned it, and then they never actually gave the people the right to be armed. No, let people be armed. Let these motherfuckers go and try to commit a crime, and then let them get shot and possibly killed over it, or shot and seriously wounded over it. To pay them is insane. And this is where you have, of course, more government intervention, where the government is taking it upon themselves to take tax money, government extorted money, and create their own program where they're paying people not to commit crimes. It's crazy. I don't see how it's not just the message that you're sending out, but it's just the whole point. I mean, where do you go from there? Do other cities start doing that? Hey, let's get a bunch of people that may recommit crimes and pay them not to. You're going to pay somebody? That's like extortion. What's the difference between that and like the government, really, or the mafia, which the government essentially is? Hey, we'll pay you not to commit any crimes. To me, it's insane. And the biggest thing, again, being that they want to take cities, take guns out of the hands of people that, I don't want to say legally, because I think it should be legal for anybody to carry a gun, but for people that wouldn't commit any violent crimes. You want to take guns out of their hands so they can't defend themselves against these people. Instead, you want to pay these motherfuckers instead of putting them back out on the street, letting people arm themselves and, take care of criminals that way. Take care of people that actually commit violent crimes and break in people's houses and beat people and try to kill them that way. Because I think this is just sending an insane message to people. So I don't know what the results were in Richmond, California. They said that crime has gone down. It doesn't mean that crime has gone down necessarily because of that. That could be the reason. A lot of times things will happen and people will come up with incorrect correlations as to why they have. I mean, again, that could be the reason. But really, that's how you want to reduce crime, by paying somebody to do it, or to not do it, I guess, in that case. So, yeah, I think that's just insane. So I had talked about at the beginning of the show, I had just mentioned briefly that some fucking creepy looking motherfucker, actually, who reminds me of like a serial killer, to be honest. Even sounds like one. There's like no emotion. I don't hear any emotion. I don't know. I'll play a couple clips and you guys can decide for yourself. But who posted, now, first of all, They said that my show is the worst show they ever heard. You know, don't give any specifics really or anything like that. It's painful to listen to. They said I sound black. They were making a bunch of insults. Now, constructive criticism is fine. If you want to give me any constructive criticism, I have no problem with that. But if you want to insult me and then use the show as a way to do it, that's a lot different. So it's like you're trying to put me down and insult me, but you're going to use the show to do it. Not only that, but I keep that whole saying, people in glass houses, keeps happening where people are trying to say shit about me where they should be looking at themselves. So this fucking douchebag did 29 shows. Now, they could have done more shows on another platform. I don't know. On Blog Talk Radio, they did 29 shows. Each show was either a half hour or an hour. So just to keep in mind, and they posted, the show that they actually posted that said, don't ever listen to this, whatever, was the 8th show I did. And at the time, I was doing a show every day. I don't know how I did that, but when I first started, I did 7 days a week, believe it or not. I only did that for like a week or two. And then I'm like, this is insane. So that's when I had first started. So obviously, I learned a lot of things since then. And I was somebody who wasn't on the radio before. So and all that considered, I don't think it was that bad. I don't think it was great. I definitely think there are a lot of things that needed to be improved and I needed more experience and all of these things. But if you take a show that is the 8th show I did when I've been doing radio for about a week, of course it's easy to criticize that. I'm on show fucking 200 and what's today, 63? And this is show 8. So if you want to put like a recent fucking show up there, because even the sound quality sucks, just like your sound quality where you can't even fucking hear anything. I mean, I actually have really good sound quality, and that's just because I bought the equipment. It's not like, you know, anybody else can't do the same thing and go out and, you know, buy the equipment and hook up everything so they have good sound quality. Blog Talk Radio sound quality sucks, and that's why I got off it. So I haven't been on Blog Talk Radio in like a year, and that's where they took this from. So again, to use my show to talk shit about me and to do it on Facebook, you know, it's easy to talk a lot of shit behind Facebook. But I'll play a couple clips from the show from this fucking creepy ass motherfucker. And he talks about how great his show was. He said he got 1,000 listeners a show. Now, I just can't see that as possible. And the reason why is because even Chris Cantwell, who's pretty big for an independent broadcaster, not that I'm a fan, but occasionally I'll listen to hear all the shit that he talks. But at least I know on on YouTube what he gets, because he's running it on other stuff too, so he could be getting more. But even he doesn't get over 2,000 on YouTube. But maybe total he might, but still. And then he says, well, I get 1,000 a show. Then something comes up where I get 1,000 a month. And when you're doing one show a month for a half hour or an hour, it's a lot easier to get more listeners anyway. If I took my show and did it once a month, then of course I get more listeners. Or if I took the amount of listeners I had per month, and again, that doesn't mean all the fucking people are original neither. The way he referred to it was like, oh, I get, 1,000 people, like it's new people every single time. And no, it's not. There are people that obviously are repeat listeners. So, and then there's a clip that, he's trying to make a black voice. So obviously, I don't want to say the person's racist because I don't know them, but if they want to bring up stuff about me and then, make like a black voice and whatever. So I don't know which one is which, because it actually doesn't say on the ones I downloaded. Wait, maybe I can get it from properties. Okay, here's the creepy listeners one. So we'll play this. The sound is fucking terrible, just so you know. So hopefully, yeah.
Geico presents sharing versus oversharing. Earlier this week, Claire Tippins shared a princess nickname generator, 3 pictures of her dog wearing a tutu,
Does
and
it
2 online
not
quizzes, including
play?
I'm going to use how you could save hundreds on your car insurance.
Hello! Hello, welcome to
That's a great opening too.
Here. For another episode, Sean Gruber's not going to be here today, so
Sounds like he's in the fucking basement, first of all, if you want to talk about, again, sound quality. But I guess sound quality to some people doesn't matter. But what I guess he doesn't know is it does matter, and it's very important to a lot of people. That's why I got off of Blog Talk Radio, because I got a lot of shit for my sound quality.
like Solo.
Oh, not to mention the fact that, and the only reason I'm bringing this up is because other people want to talk shit. I was on LRN as well. The only reason I'm not is because I didn't want to be anymore. I told Ian to take me off. So, because I wasn't on a scheduled time, I was on the podcast mix, and I think there were reasons for that, specifically not being in New Hampshire, and I'm not even going to go into it. I did a whole show about it, but people liked my show enough, obviously, to put it on LRN. So, fuck you.
I'm going to use the just me talking format again, and not the
I don't even know what the fuck you're saying, because
two-person debating format.
Right, where you can't understand what you say.
Guest call-in is 1-805-285-9849.
And I'm creepy. I will bury you in my basement.
The last show, I wouldn't have guessed that this would be the case, because the show dealt with the New Age movement, which I would have thought might be slightly dry material.
I talk like this, like I'm monotone, and actually, I'm trying to fucking fuck up my sound. I'm in the basement chopping up. I'm in here chopping up some bodies while I'm doing my show. I should call it Chopping Bodies.
The show consisted of just myself speaking, but it got over 2,000 hits. And within the last 30 days, about the last month period.
That's because all the serial killers get together and listen to each other's stuff.
We got over 5,000 hits. And it's funny because the show.
Maybe people are really into
Actually,
train
they have a new
wrecks.
age group called One Taste.
I would say that, you know, there are a lot of shows I listen to, not a lot, but I used to, because it was a fucking train wreck. In that it was so bad, or it was so creepy, or they were talking about like fucked up shit. So I've listened to shows that I hate or that are train wrecks. I can't see that just because of, like I said, kind of using Cantwell as a baseline, and you know, Cantwell has great sound quality. I don't know, you know, I've said some stuff about him recently because I don't know, he's kind of gone off the rails there, but he's still getting the same amount of listeners on YouTube at least. So that's kind of what I'm looking at, is using him as a baseline. And this dude sounds like a pathological liar anyway, because I've seen like pictures. I don't judge like guys, but he's a creepy looking motherfucker, and he mentions like some girl yelling over to him like, "Hey sexy, come here." I mean, it could have been a hooker, so that's possible, because he was talking about Las Vegas compared to New York, and being in Las Vegas, somebody yelled over, "Hey sexy."
I've spoken about periodically on here. And the numbers seem to show that more people listen to the show than are involved with One Taste from the numbers I've seen. I've seen One Taste numbers as being 1,500. Which means, what that means is that more people have heard my criticism of One Taste than actually belonged or were involved at all with One Taste.
Okay, I'm going to go to, I actually just took 3 just to play a couple minutes in the beginning, because I can't really take much of this. Not because of all the shit that he talked, just because if he was actually good, I'd come out and say, yeah, well, he talks shit, but the show's good. I mean, what am I going to do? As I had mentioned, I had my show taken off LRN, because I was sick of fucking Ian and dealing with Ian and all this shit, the attitude and whatever. And I talked about that on the show. But I will never doubt Ian's talent and that he does a good show, because he does. Just because I got to a point where, you know, I didn't want to deal with him anymore, doesn't mean that he doesn't still do a good show. But, I mean, this is fucking terrible.
Geico presents sharing versus oversharing.
Oh, let me get at the beginning, because the intros are so great.
Dude, oversharing alert. Brad, Geico has something worth sharing with those who haven't befriended you. Like how you could save hundreds on your car insurance at Geico.com. Like how you could save hundreds on your car insurance at Geico. Could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Blog Talk Radio.
One. Oh, we're on Leak. Oh, we're on the air. Woo! All right. So, we got 2 guns on the table.
We're on the air.
Right now.
Yeah, we just buried some people in the basement, some hookers.
The length and width of our 9mm.
There's one we normally compare the length and width of, right?
Yeah, I know. So I guess I have to relate the story now that recently I was attacked by. I was coming home from cat walking, you know, tomcatting, I guess is the expression, tomcatting around.
I was coming home from fucking my cat.
And are we on the air? We're good. Okay, so I was tomcatting around at all the little bars and stuff, looking for some, you know, championships. It got to be like 3 o'clock in the morning, so it's like, okay, it's time to walk home. And then as I'm walking home, I'm like a block away from my house, and I will turn around this young, like 16-year-old black male
behind me. He's going, yo, what's up? I'm like, what? I don't know. What's up? What's up? And they started making these hand gestures, which was later explained gang stuff. And what it was I turned my back, and there's a bunch of other black and Latino minorities, youth running towards him. I turned my back. She tries to punch me in the back, but he barely makes contact. You know? Yeah, it doesn't really hurt, you know? And I turned around, and his friends are tackling him. Yo, what you doing, man? What you doing? You cool off, man. Or whatever the hell it is. I think it's like, what? Shit, that's not really that scary of a story.
All right, that's enough of that. I just wanted to play how, he's trying to do a definitely a racist kind of voice there, and based on that, and then saying that, what was it? Like, I think I'm black or something, or why am I? It was something to the effect of, sounding black or trying to sound like I'm black or something like that. What was it? Oh, maybe it was on the next one here. Technology is great. Oh. It just flipped. Yeah, I tried listening to him of curious. Does he think he's black? Yes, I think I'm black. I do. I think I'm black. Fuck you, you fucking creepy ass motherfucker. Yeah, this fucking dude, he says also it's easy to do a show. He's like, yeah, it's so easy to do a show. You just do this and you do this and you do that. Now, again, granted, this is a dude, when he did a show by himself, he would do a show for a half hour. When he did a show with his faggot partner, and I don't mean faggot like derogatory towards gay people, because this person is not gay. Actually, they might be gay. I don't know. They just sit in their house and get drunk all the time and never go out with girls. But as far as I know, they're not gay. But it's pretty easy to sit there and talk about something. Yeah, like anybody can sit in front of a mic and talk, but to put on an entertaining show that people will listen to, that people will come back to actually make sense. And then there's, sound and the introduction and in between commercials and bumpers and all of that stuff is very important as well, as far as being professional. So to do a professional sounding radio show, no, it is not easy. To do garbage like that sounds like you're in the basement, yeah, that's easy. You can just sit there and say whatever. But it's not easy to do a good show. And anybody who's on the radio will tell you that. And I know from talking to Mark Edge from Free Talk Live, who I'm pretty friendly with, and getting advice from him as well. And no, I mean, even when they started, he said, they sucked. And radio's something that you have to get by doing it. Like, it doesn't matter how much you study beforehand or how much knowledge you have. I'm sure that will help to an extent, but radio is something that, in my opinion, you have to do, and you have to learn by experience. you have to listen back to your shows. And I still do a lot of stuff that I can improve on. I mean, there's things I've done tonight that I've noticed them where I've slowed down because I'm trying to think of the next word, or like I just did right there, paused, or things along those lines. And it's hard doing a show by yourself, too. I mean, that's the hardest to do. If you do a show by yourself and you're not getting calls, it's all you talking. And I got to a point where, for me, it's, I don't give a fuck. People aren't going to stop me. And contrary to bullshit that people write or that people allege, nobody's left the shows on bad terms, at least my show, that were co-hosts on my show. Everybody that has left because either they couldn't do it anymore for specific personal reasons, which I'm not going to talk about, or like Ellen got a show on LRN and she really wanted her own show, and Pete got overwhelmed by work, and I don't want to get too much into what he does, but he does some stuff with systems, and I don't want to get into any details there. The only person maybe who I would say, and it's because of something they did to me, would be somebody that I worked with originally, like a couple months after my show started. And they actually, essentially what they did, and I don't want to say their name because I don't want to bring anything up. I mean, they're not a bad person or anything, and I don't hate them. But they essentially, in the person they did it with, he's a fucking douchebag, so he can go fuck himself. But essentially, he came on my show that I did with her. We did a cop block night, so, or a police night. So he asked her to do exactly the same thing with him. And I'm like, well, essentially, what's the point of doing the same show? It's just, okay, he's the host, you guys are doing the same thing, and then I'm the host, we're doing the same thing. If it was a different type of show, I wouldn't have had a problem. Like if it was, they were talking about something else, but they were talking about the same exact thing. And I mean, almost exactly like the same stories and everything. And it was like, what the fuck? And she didn't even tell me about it. I actually heard about it because I saw something that he posted. So that was the only person that really, I wouldn't even say we had issues. It was just, that's fucked up. I felt like she kind of fucked me over. So I got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm not gonna do the same show that you're already doing with him. But I didn't have any bad, I think I was a little mad at first, but I didn't do anything about it, or I didn't yell at her, or I didn't call her a bitch or call her bad names or anything like that. It was just like, you know, I can't work with you if you're going to do that. That's kind of fucked up. And I told her that I felt it was fucked up. And that was really it. And everybody else that's left on good terms. And Ellen has been back. Thomas was just back last week. He has a bunch of personal stuff with police going on. So that's the issue there. Ken, of course, is still on. And Pete, with all the work stuff, it was just like, plus he was on the East Coast staying up late. So, and you also have to realize that when you're not paying somebody to do a show, that they don't take it as seriously and they don't put in the same amount of effort. Now, I don't expect them to, you know, I don't expect them to put in as much effort as I do because it is my show. But I at least, like, if they want to do it. Oh, there was one other person who I don't even want to name, who was actually a part of that show that I just played. And they were just nuts. They would call in drunk and then say the same shit over and over again because they probably didn't remember that they said it. And they had a very limited, not vocabulary, but they were very limited on what they would talk about, and they wouldn't prepare. And like, I just asked a little, like, okay, we're going to talk about this article on the show today. Can you read it? Oh, no, I don't do that. So really, I just wanted, if you say you're going to do something, just do it. Like, if you're going to be on the show, you know, this is what I ask. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. But don't say that you're going to do this and then not do it. Or if you're not going to do it, if you change your mind, just let me know, like, hey, I can't do this because it's too much for me. So that was really the only issues. And to be honest, I don't put either of those on me. I kind of got fucked over in both of those situations. So one, I didn't get too fucked over, but the one where, you know, essentially they not only did they do the same show as me, but they took their connections to Cop Block and got all this Cop Block information, like letters and stuff like that, and got to use it on their show. And that's what I was trying to do on my show, is get stories. And then they did the same thing, but they had access to stuff that I didn't have. So that was pretty fucked up. I mean, I'm not, at this point, like, I really could care less, and I don't have any bad feelings towards that person at all. Like, if I've seen her, or, you know, I wouldn't see her because she lives far away. But if she happened to be in Vegas or something and wanted to have lunch or something, I would. You know, it's not like I hold any bad feelings towards her or anything like that, because I don't. But anyway, I'm going to take a break. I have some clips that I want to play regarding Donald Trump, Donald Trump's top 20 insults, as well as 10 things you didn't know about Donald Trump. And we also have 10 top crazy Donald Trump moments. So we're going to play those. Then when we come back, I will finish up with the Trump, what do you call it? I can't even think of the name of it. The Trump agenda, as well, or the platform agenda, same thing, as well as his personality, some of his quotes, and why anybody would want to vote for this fucking guy. And how I feel like we're in the Twilight Zone or something, like, it's just like, as you learn these things, now this is not something that I put with that, but, you know, you learn more and more about government and the things that happen. It's just, it shows how much of a joke it just really is. And it's crazy. So I'm going to play those things, and then we will be back to talk more about Mr. Trump. So check us out at nonpartisanlibertyforall.com.
Politicians are all talk, no action. The politicians are going to destroy this country. They're weak and they're ineffective. I watch as politicians are trying to claim that, and that's okay with me. You know, they're all talk, no action, so they won't do anything anyway, just so you understand. I've watched the politicians. I've dealt with them all my life. They will never make America great again. They don't even have a chance. They're controlled fully by the lobbyists, by the donors, and by the special interests. These politicians, they run and they run and they win, and sometimes they lose, and they keep running. That's all they do is run. Most of them don't know what they're doing. They just run. I just hate to see when people don't have common sense, don't have an understanding of what's going on, or perhaps don't want to know. Maybe it's campaign contributions, maybe it's special interests, maybe it's lobbyists. But for some reason, some people don't get it, and I don't think they'll be in office much longer. I really mean that.
We have very stupid people in our country negotiating for us, and we have leaders that don't know what they're doing.
I respect Mexico, but their leaders are too smart for our leaders because we have stupid leaders, okay? You know, free trade, I believe in it. Totally. I'm a free trader. The problem with free trade is you need smart people on our side. When you don't have smart people, free trade is not a good thing. Free trade can be wonderful if you have smart people. But we have people that are stupid. We have people that aren't smart. And we have people that are controlled by special interests. And it's just not going to work. You can win against China if you're smart. But our people don't have a clue. We give state dinners to the heads of China. I say, why are you doing state dinners for them? They're ripping us left and right. Just take them to McDonald's and go back to the negotiating table. Seriously. Somebody's doing a bad job. It's corruption. It's massive corruption. It's massive incompetence. And the people are really being treated like third-class citizens. We have incompetent politicians, not only the president. Obama would get creamed if he ran again. I call Obama the 5-for-1 president. We get Bergdahl, they get 5 guys that they dream of, okay? We get a traitor, a no good, rotten traitor like Bergdahl. And they get 5 killers that they most wanted in the whole world who are right now back on the battlefield trying to kill everybody, including us. Our president doesn't have a clue. He's a bad negotiator. I think they made a mistake, but not with Obama, because he's weak and he's ineffective and he's not respected. When President Obama was elected, I said, well, the one thing I think he'll do well, I think he'll be a great cheerleader for the country. He's not a leader, that's true. You're right about that. But he wasn't a cheerleader. He's actually a negative force. He's been a negative force. You have this guy, Lindsey Graham, a total lightweight. Here's a guy in the private sector, he couldn't get a job, believe me. Lindsey Graham, your senator. What a stiff. What a stiff. By the way, he's registered 0 in the poll. 0. I couldn't care less about Lindsey Graham. He's registered at, I think, 0 in the poll. I don't know if it's the right number. Let's try it. 202-228-0292. I don't know. Maybe it's, it's 3-4 years ago, so maybe it's an old number. 202-228-0292. So, I don't know, give it a shot. Your local politician, he won't fix anything, but at least he'll talk to you. He actually probably seems to me not as bright, honestly, as Rick Perry. I think Rick Perry probably is smarter than Lindsey Graham, but what do I know? I see Rick Perry the other day. He put glasses on so people will think he's smart. And it just doesn't work. People can see through the glasses. Yeah, but Rick Perry, honestly, I don't think he even understands what it means. I tweeted that Rick Perry should have to have an IQ test before getting on the debate stage. I think Rick Perry did a terrible job as the governor of Texas, where the border security was terrible. Hillary Clinton was the worst Secretary of State in the history of the United States. Hillary was the worst. Hillary Clinton's going to be a horrible president. I think Hillary would be a terrible president. She was the worst Secretary of State in the history of our nation. Why would she be a good president? I think she'd be a terrible president. Rubio, he was unable to answer the question. Is Iraq a good thing or a bad thing? He didn't know. He couldn't answer the question. How are these people going to lead us? How are we going to go back and make it great again? We can't. They don't have a clue. Jeb Bush, let's say he's president. The last thing this country needs is another Bush. We've had it with the Bushes. You look at somebody like Jeb Bush. It took him 5 days to give a proper answer on Iraq. He was changing his answer every day. How is somebody like that going to negotiate? The poll just came out, and I'm tied with Jeb Bush. And I said, oh, that's too bad. How can I be tied with this guy? He's terrible. He's terrible. Bush is totally in favor of Common Core. I don't see how he can possibly get the nomination. He's weak on immigration. He's in favor of Common Core. How the hell can you vote for this guy? You just can't do it. I'm not a fan of Jeb Bush, because Jeb Bush is in favor of Common Core, and he's weak on immigration. Those are two bad things. Jeb Bush will never take us to the promised land. He doesn't have it. I supported him. He lost. He let us down. But, he lost. So I never liked him as much after that, because I don't like losers. And he's the guy. I mean, he's supposed to be doing it. And I see him on television all the time, and he's always talking, but nothing gets done. He's a war hero. 5.5 years. He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay? I hate to tell you. Do you agree with that? He's a war hero because he was captured. 60-70% of the political media is really, really dishonest. Because the press are liars. They're terrible people. They're terrible people. The press is very, very dishonest. And I think people are wise to the press. Because those people, many of them, not all, some are great, but many of them are very dishonest people, meaning the press. Very dishonest. Very dishonest. The people don't trust you, and the people don't trust the media.
That there are, for immigrants on the whole,
Come on, try getting it out. Try getting it out.
I'll get it out.
I mean, I don't know if you're going to put this on television, but you don't even know what you're talking about. Try getting it out. Go ahead. Reverend Al is a con man. Tells people I'm going to picket you if you don't give. I mean, this guy is a con man. How stupid are our leaders? How stupid are these politicians to allow this to happen?
Stay in the race. Just stop being a jackass.
I don't think he represents the Republican Party, and his views are way out of the mainstream of what Republicans think.
Donald Trump doesn't represent the Republican Party. I think his remarks were offensive. As an individual who has worn the uniform of this country, I was highly offended what Donald Trump said about John McCain.
I think the comments he's made has allowed people that don't want to have a debate or talk about illegal immigration to distract from the very serious debate on hand.
To make these extraordinarily ugly kind of comments is not reflective of the Republican Party. Trump is wrong on this.
Donald Trump owes every American veteran, and in particular John McCain, an apology.
The American people deserve better. Certainly presidential debates deserve better.
I have just one word for Mr. Trump. Basta. Enough!
Real estate mogul Donald Trump has been dominating the business landscape since the early 1970s. Since leaving his fingerprint on the real estate industry, Trump has gone on to be a television personality, author, and now with his name in the running to become President of the United States, a politician. So, here are 10 facts about Donald Trump. While not being an actor or movie star, Donald Trump is one of the few to ever win a Razzie Award for a cameo appearance in a movie with his role in Ghosts Can't Do It, taking home the infamous award in 1990. For those of you who don't know what the Razzies are, it's like the Oscars, but for the worst movies of the year. The now famous Trump brand spans a wide variety of industries, including real estate, hospitality, entertainment, mortgages, restaurants, catering, ice cream, online travel, menswear, fragrance, golf, home furnishings, transportation, model management, vodka, and more, all developed by Trump himself. As of 2015, Donald Trump is the only presidential candidate with his own board game, unsurprisingly titled Trump the Game. Released in 1988, the Monopoly-esque game requires players to invest in real estate properties, while simultaneously attempting to bankrupt competitors. It was ultimately discontinued after dismal sales and harsh reviews. Dissatisfied with President Obama's initial candidacy, Trump was an active member of the birther movement that questioned the president's birthplace. He even went so far as to send investigators to Obama's native Hawaii to back up his accusations. Even after Obama released his birth certificate to the public in 2014, Trump continued to dismiss its legitimacy. In 2013, comedian Bill Maher jokingly accused Trump of being the son of a monkey to mock him for his obsession with Obama's birth certificate, and then offered $5 million to prove his father was not a baboon. Trump called his bluff and released his birth certificate publicly. When Maher didn't pay up, Trump sued, only to drop the charges months later. In another lawsuit, Trump railed against New York Times author Timothy O'Brien because the writer miscalculated his net worth in a book published in 2006. The book's citation claimed Trump was worth between $150 and $250 million, whereas Trump said he was worth billions. The court dismissed his lawsuit in 2009. Donald Trump's now infamous catchphrase, "You're fired," was spawned from his reality TV show The Apprentice, starting in 2004 on NBC. Acting as the host of the program, Trump proceeded to eliminate celebrity contestants in order to find a head for one of Trump's companies. Trump made a whopping $15 million for each season on the show, which was canceled after announcing his campaign for president. Trump has owned the Miss Universe organization since 1996. This program also produces the Miss USA and Miss Teen USA pageants across the country. After Trump's controversial statements regarding Mexicans in his 2016 presidential campaign, NBC parted ways with him and refused to air the pageant from that year on. Trump has authored over 50 books. His first, The Art of the Deal, was published in 1987, and Trump claims it is the #1 best-selling business book of all time. Other titles include Trump, The Best Real Estate Advice I Ever Received, 100 Top Experts Share Their Strategies, and 10 Secrets I Learned from The Apprentice. Donald Trump, an avid flyer and collector of planes, has outfitted his private jet with gold trimmings, including a 24-karat gold-plated seatbelt. The plane has a top speed of 500 miles per hour and includes a bedroom and room for 43 other passengers. This incredible jet is worth over $100 million.
You are listening to Nonpartisan Liberty for All Radio with your host, Dave Bourne. Call in at 702-470-7664 or Skype in, username Nonpartisan Liberty for All.
And we are back, and you do still have time to call in or Skype in. Again, the call-in number 702-470-7664, or you can Skype in and send a contact request to Nonpartisan Liberty for All. It's all one word. So I wanted to make sure I played those because, especially the 20, the 20 insults, just because I think that really describes him. And then the other one was pretty short, so I wanted to play that. Regarding his platform, these are the things that I don't get why people would want to support him. So if he had the attitude he has, and he was great on all these other things. Now, for me, still, I don't vote. I don't support voting. I don't support the system. I support noncompliance. But if he was great on all these things and he was that popular, I might say, okay, he's an ass. But look at how, his opinions are on all these things. First of all, you got to remember, though, that all this shit that politicians say does not happen. And I think there's two reasons for that. Of course, this is just my opinion. One is because they don't run the government. I call them the powers that be. That's how I refer to them. It could be lobbyists. It could be corporations. It could be CFR, Bilderberg Group, or a combination of all of them. I think it's probably a combination of all of them. But Congress, the president, they might think that they run things, maybe some of the stupid ones, but they don't. They have power to an extent, like, you know, if somebody fucked with a congressperson, they could get them in trouble, or they can get benefits, meaning if they go somewhere and, hey, I'm a congressman, so hook me up, or, you know, things like that. They have power, but they don't have the type of power that I think they have. Now, there could be, you know, in the House of Representatives, you have 435 representatives and then 100 in the Senate. There could be some here and there, because I think that enable to keep that illusion of freedom, that there's going to be some freedom-oriented Congress people. But if you look at it, who's a real, I'm not talking about this bullshit fucking Republican conservative freedom. I'm talking about true freedom and liberty. I'm talking about being able to do whatever you want as long as you don't hurt anybody, being able to put whatever you want in your body, being able to own yourself. All of these things, I don't know that there's a person in Congress that recognizes any of them, except for themselves. You have Congress people getting caught all the time. There was recently a Republican from Florida, maybe like a year and a half ago, that got caught undercover. Cops or something caught him, or he bought from undercover cops. I forget the exact story. So, you know, it's okay for them. He didn't go to jail or anything, but if it was, you know, some 22-year-old black kid or even some 22-year-old white kid, depending on who they were related to, if they didn't have any connections, they would be going to jail. And if they were poor, there's no doubt they would be going to jail because they wouldn't be able to afford a lawyer. So what I'm saying is that all of these things that they talk about, you know, they do their debates, and it's really entertainment at this point. And Trump goes out there and tries to be entertaining, which is not really what I'm looking for. And the only reason I started watching the debates, at first I'm like, I'm not going to watch any of these, but then I thought about the show and thought about the fact that I should know this stuff. I should be able to talk about this stuff on the show if it comes up. So I started watching some of the debates. They weren't boring to me. The Democratic ones kind of were, but for the most part, the Republican ones, I could get through them. A lot of people said the same shit over and over again. Marco Rubio was one of those guys who keeps talking about security, military, and Trump does too. So the way I view Trump's platform is his biggest things, and I think he lied about one thing. I almost know that for a fact, unless he totally changed his opinion. But his big thing, of course, one of them is immigration. You know, building his wall, the Trump wall, the Trump Taj Mahal, or some shit like that. They'll make it like gold colored, probably, like gold paint. which, don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of gold. But the Trump wall, he would love that so much if it said like across the wall in huge letters, because they'd want to cover as much as the wall as possible. If it said the Trump wall, he would love that shit because of his fucking ego. But he keeps talking about the building of this wall. And I'm thinking that they're not talking about a fence. I mean, they're talking about like bricks, like some shit that you cannot get through. What people forget about so quick is the fact that it's also going to keep Americans in too. But nobody seems to think of that. He also talks about, the more border control, the Muslim database, or at least he had talked about a list of Muslims. I know some of the stuff had been taken out of context, but he did say some of these things. His other big thing, of course, is terrorism, which kind of relates to immigration. So a lot of these things, I guess, relate together, because by building the wall, you can keep all the terrorists out, supposedly. And he had talked about more security, upgrading the security state, more cameras, more spying, more police, more IDs, or at least a more sophisticated ID. I mean, this is somebody who would want retinal scans or something like that, is what it seems like from what he's saying. Now, again, this is just what he's saying right now, and I don't know how much of this is what is wanted by the powers that be. I actually think all of it is, to be honest. So that's why if Trump is serious about a lot of the shit that he says, the only thing would be, can they control him to a certain aspect or a certain respect? Because, one, it's not hard when you're the president for, say, billionaires and millionaires that can get to the Secret Service or get to all these other things to get you to do what they want. Because all of these people have families, number one. I mean, I had mentioned before, look at the Army. If the Army wanted to take over, they could take over. And that's when I was talking about checks and balances. There's no real checks and balances. There's government and everybody else. And government also has an Army, a CIA, an FBI, a militarized police force. So there's no checks and balances against that, because the only checks and balances would be if the people had their own army to protect against the government's army, or they had all the same weapons or something along those lines. But the reason why I think Trump has a possibility of becoming president is because he seems to fall in line with a lot of things that I think the powers that be want. And at the same time, he's all about money. Now, the one thing that may be an issue is his attitude and his not getting back at people, but, insulting people. He's almost like a baby in a sense. He didn't go to that last debate. And this I forgot to bring up earlier, that it may have been him not going to that last debate that lost him Iowa. Now, we don't know that, but that people are speculating that's probably why. But with all his insults and all of that, is that something that they would want to deal with? So his other stuff that he had mentioned is, and this is almost a quote, he had said that, and I have to paraphrase because I don't remember the exact answer, but the question was about, should anybody ever be deprived of having a gun? It was something along those lines. So the question seemed to include anybody, meaning no background check would stop anybody from getting a gun. And he said, no, everybody should have a right to defend themselves. Now, I don't know if he totally understood what she was saying, because he had been always for gun control to a certain extent, not for a total ban of things, but he had been for, of course, background checks, and I think he had been even a little further than that. So now he's saying this. That would be something I would think he would just be saying to get elected, not because he really believes it. Now, taxes, I'm unclear, because it sounded like he wanted to tax corporations more and tax people that are making more money more, which is more of a democratic principle. And I could be wrong on that, but that's how I understood it. And that wouldn't be something that, that would be something that I think the powers that be would support. And then he talked about a little about religion, trying to appeal to evangelicals, although he's not religious. And that was the main, I guess, focus of the platform. A lot of the debates, they kept focusing, and these are what these fuckers are trying to do. They're all trying to do it for the most part, except maybe Rand Paul wasn't really too much trying to do it. Neither really was Ted Cruz to that extent, neither to the extent that the other ones were. But they're trying to scare people into, we need to keep the people safe, so we need to do this. Marco Rubio doesn't give a fuck about people's rights. He's talking about, we need to keep the people safe, whether you have no rights or not, as long as you're safe. Now, of course, I'm the type of person that goes by the saying, I'd rather, I always fuck it up. What? Live on my feet than die on... No, it's the other way around. Die on my feet than live on my knees. See, that's why I said I always fuck it up. But a lot of people are getting, according to the polls, all these people, they've convinced enough people that this is such a huge fucking thing, that ISIS isn't a creation of the U.S. government, that ISIS is somehow a threat to the U.S. It's not. And everybody said they're going to go crush ISIS. Even Ted Cruz I would just go over there and crush ISIS. And it's like, to me, that's not even the number one priority. If you look at the biggest issues in the country, that's not even number one. I'd put it way up there, because I think that the U.S. government is essentially controlling them. Not only that, is they're busy in their own fucking wars. Now, what I would worry about is them pulling a false flag by bringing all those refugees over here and then having one of them carry out a terrorist attack led by the FBI or the CIA. That's what I would worry about. But I wouldn't worry about them attacking anybody. And of course, that was the other thing. Trump talking about, stopping ISIS, building up the military to the point that people would be scared of it. I don't know how you can build it up anymore. I know there were some cuts recently, but before that, were people scared because, oh, look, their military so big, we're not going to do anything? Is that's what his plan? I mean, in theory, it makes sense where if you look at it in another situation where, oh, well, you have 20 people and they have 3 people. And of course, usually if the odds are on your side, then they're not going to bother. But when you're talking about an army, it doesn't make a difference. And you look at what the U.S. did in Iraq and in Afghanistan and in Vietnam. When's the last time the U.S. won a fucking war? Or even had like clear goals about what winning a war was? And why are they always at fucking war? They need to cut the military altogether and just get rid of them. But so that's essentially what I got out of his platform. The only thing I agree with in his platform is guns, but I think he's just full of shit. Not that he doesn't support guns at all, but he doesn't support them to the extent that he said. I don't think he's like sitting there supporting like no background checks and felons having guns and stuff like that. Now, his personality is essentially just all arrogance. It doesn't even seem like he wants to be president. Like he just wants to win, just to be able to say, look, I won, I'm president, look how great I am, and then just be like, hey, you can have it, to the vice president. Seriously, I could see him doing that. And there's a huge difference between confidence and arrogance. And him, it's all arrogance. And you look, and if you listen to a lot of these interviews, and I played some of the stuff, but I have other stuff as well, and it's just it's I'm so great. I mean, some of his quotes were my second favorite book. The Art of the Deal is my second favorite book besides the Bible. That's the book that he wrote. He said freedom of speech is foolish. He talked about building the wall. I'm going to build up the military so big to scare people away. He had said that I'm going to be president, being, I guess you could call that confidence, but it's still more arrogance. It's I'm the best. There's nobody better than me. And even with the media, because the media really hasn't attacked him. You look at all of the shit that he has said, and the media hasn't attacked him. One theory is that they're building everything up, and then what's going to happen is if he gets the nomination, then they're going to just go after him, and then most likely Hillary will win. And that's how they rig an election. That's one way. Because right now, no one's really going after him in the way that they could. I mean, there's so many ways, I think, to go after him. I mean, he's not only arrogant, but he's pompous, he's egotistical, he's an egomaniac, he's insulting. So when he is joking around, it's not like in a fun type of way. He jokes around where it's insulting. He's condescending. He's putting you down, but trying to make it look like a joke. He's sarcastic all the time. He's just plain mean. So someone had said that he just knows, as I was saying, that he just knows how to play the media. But it could be more that they're just going to wait. That's what they've been told to do. Or the Democrats right now are putting together all this information on him. And he would probably be the best candidate for them to run against because there's so much on him that they could probably dig up. I don't know about the other candidates as far as what they could dig up. And I think the only ones that have any chance really at this point are Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz. I think everybody else is pretty much done. No one's going to elect Ben Carson, although at one point he was like right behind Trump. I mean, the guy's like always falling asleep. Just the persona of, then this is what's kind of fucked up. He's too laid back and he's just relaxed, and that's a good way to be honest. It's just like Ron Paul. The way Ron Paul came off was not good for his message. It didn't help him the way he came off. But he wasn't sitting there trying to play it up for the cameras or anything like that. He was just being straight up real. But in this day and age, there's people that won't vote for people because of their demeanor. Like that's what I'm saying with Ben Carson. I think even because he's too laid back, that people wouldn't vote for him just because of that alone. And he hasn't gotten into the attacks with the other people. So, assuming that, again, whatever the agenda is of the powers that be, that a lot of these people would fit it, I think probably the perfect person for the powers that be would probably be Marco Rubio, because he's the one who keeps bringing up more security, more military. I want to keep people safe. That he would be the president to take over. Now, maybe it's not in his presidency. Maybe it's down the line. And I think Hillary would do the same thing as well. So don't get me wrong, because she's going to follow whatever as well. So I would think, because the problem with Trump is going to be his ego and all of that stuff are going to get in the way. Definitely. I don't see, and that's why I see them holding all this information right now. But I think that all of that would get in the way, especially when it comes to, you know, any type of control or anything like that, or do this, or, you know, and again, I don't know exactly how things work, but I think just the way he is, his arrogance, his ego would all get in the way. Now, with Rubio, he's all about a lot of the same stuff. He's all about going after terrorists, going after ISIS, taking away whatever privacy he has to supposedly keep people safe. And he said that already. He just didn't use those words. But if you want to paraphrase it, that's what he said. And Christie's similar to that as well. But I don't think he has the following that somebody like Marco Rubio has. Plus, he's Cuban, so they could play up the, well, you know, even the first woman president, if on the Hillary side, but you have the first Cuban-American president. So either way, it would be a first. So they can play that up. So I really think that that would be the ideal, and that whoever gets in, they're going to take away more freedom. They're going to keep, you know, they're going to take that baton from Obama and keep moving with the agenda that they're moving on. And I think almost everybody on there would do that. You know, Ted Cruz supposedly, well, I would go back to the Constitution and I would do this. And, well, the Constitution is good. And the Constitution doesn't even give you, you know, freedom. So that doesn't really mean much. But I don't think he would be that much different. But because of the way he is, I don't think there's any way they would allow him to get elected either. The same with Rand Paul. But Rand Paul, I don't even know about him. I mean, really, we're just basing him, or a lot of people are just basing him off his dad and hoping that if he got elected, his dad would be his top advisor, and that his dad would be sitting there, you know, why aren't you doing this and why aren't you doing that, and maybe influence him to do it. That's, I think, the only thing about Rand Paul that is appealing. I mean, there's a couple things that he's said, but he's another one. I don't think they would let him become president exactly because of that, because it's still Ron Paul's son, regardless of what he says. If he came out and said, hey, I want to attack ISIS, I want to build a wall, I want to do this, I want to do that, even if he came out and said all those things, I don't think that would be enough, because of the fact that he is Ron Paul's son. And that is definitely something that I believe the powers that be would think about. And that would be something that would worry them. So the more I think about it, I think most likely it's Hillary and Rubio, and the best case scenario, in order to switch things up and then have all those people that were against Obama now switch the other way, would be to have Rubio become president. And then you got a similar situation to Obama, in that you have, a second-term senator or third-term senator that's president that doesn't have the experience. You have the first Hispanic president, and it just turns the other way as what people think, and support-wise, it turns the other way. But in reality, it continues. Drone strikes, wars, all of these things, more taking away of freedom, more militarized police, more of all this stuff. it just continues. It continues with Hillary, too. So I think it would continue with anybody, because I think all you got to do is they come in there and threaten your family, you know. I mean, that's it. Or they, you know, you at the same time. I mean, in all seriousness, who's there to protect the president? Well, the Secret Service. Well, you know, the Secret Service is part of the government. If the president wasn't to follow what they're supposed to follow, I think it's almost like, what was it in Captain America? It wasn't ISIS, but it sounded like it. I'm thinking ISIS. It was, it started with an H. Hydra. That it's similar to that if you've seen Captain America. But anyway, that's all the time we have for tonight. We will, of course, be back tomorrow with Ken Shorgen of thedailyeconomist.com. Go check him out at thedailyeconomist.com. Lots of articles, lots of important articles on geopolitics and the economy. And we'll be talking to him tomorrow. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And hopefully you'll be tuning back in tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.
Each and every man should go home safe. Sometimes the use of force is necessary. You need to comply with the police officer, the way the system was meant to be. Comply with the orders of police officers. Resisting arrest is a real and dangerous crime.